Hi, I'm Arun George, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In today's episode, we'll be looking at how Bihar is dealing with a lockdown and a spike in COVID-19 cases. We'll also be looking at the findings of a survey in Mumbai that gives an idea about the spread of COVID-19 in the city. But first, we're looking at how the world's richest T20 cricket league seems set to go ahead despite the pandemic. Since it started in 2008, the Indian Premier League is traditionally held in the summer months of India and stretches out over almost 2 months. Cricketing stars from around the world turn up to play for the different franchises, and the league has been conducted over the years despite impediments like drought, match-fixing allegations, and even national elections. But this year, with a lockdown imposed in March to slow the spread of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, it looked like there was no chance for the 2020 tournament. But despite the multiple delays, the Indian Cricket Board or BCCI never called off the tournament. Through the many extensions of the lockdown and the rising number of COVID-19 cases in India, the cricket body maintained that the tournament had been delayed and wasn't cancelled. There were reports of the league being played in foreign venues, but they weren't confirmed. Then suddenly earlier this week, the chairman of the IPL, Brijesh Patel, said that the league would be played, but not in India. Instead, the tournament is to be held in the United Arab Emirates from September to November if it gets all the necessary approvals. We're now speaking with Shamik Chakrabarty, who writes on cricket for the Indian Express, on how the tournament is being organized and why it's essential for the Indian Cricket Board to conduct the IPL. I just wanted to check first with you, as in how come the IPL was even accommodated this year, given the summer was, ruined by the pandemic?
On the face of it, IPL was facing the possibility of having a zero season because with T20 World Cup happening, IPL didn't have a window. Once it was scheduled to start in March, and once it was postponed because of the pandemic, then having a window for the IPL was the biggest issue. Now, this T20 World Cup got postponed, which was scheduled to be held in Australia in October and November. That created a window for the IPL. We are not going into the territory of whether BCCI used its clout to ensure that IPL gets a window, because that will once again take us into the territory of speculation. And now IPL has a window. IPL has a window in the autumn from late September to early November, because after that, once again, India will embark on a tour to Australia for a full series.
So that then raises the question. I mean, you mentioned about how there's even speculation about BCCI's clout and things like that. But why does the IPL matter so much to the BCCI, and what happens if it's not held for 1 year?
IPL matters so much because it's a $1 million business. I mean, without the IPL, BCCI's revenue loss would have been in excess of rupees 2,000 crore upfront. See, Star, the host broadcaster for the IPL, pays the BCCI rupees 3,270 crore per year for the IPL. Okay. And now this revenue is shared in a 50-50 ratio with the franchises. So in that case, without the IPL, as far as the broadcast revenue is concerned, BCCI would have suffered a revenue loss in excess of 1,500 crore. Then there is IPL's title sponsor Vivo, which gives BCCI rupees 439 crore per year. And then there is IPL's official partner Dream 11 that gives in the Indian board rupees 161 crore annually. So given that everything combined, without the IPL, BCCI was staring at a rupees 3,000 crore black hole. And see, IPL is something that fills the BCCI coffers. Whatever BCCI earns as broadcast revenue from international cricket, 20% of that goes to its affiliated unit state associations. And then 26% was shared among the contracted cricketers. So for the BCCI to develop infrastructure, to cater to domestic cricket, grassroots cricket, IPL money is the most important thing.
Also, with things like the pandemic, there was also this clause of this whole force majeure thing where basically it's an act of God, and therefore, all contracts kind of stand null and void. And that whole speculation was also there briefly, right? But that's been sorted out now?
Now that there is a window, and the IPL, in all likelihood, subject to the government approval, is moving out of India and going to UAE, a force majeure will not apply. And in any case, see, force majeure is a very tricky clause. It is subject to interpretation. I mean, when you have a contract and your contract is frustrated, whether it is time bound or not, so many things come into the equation of a force majeure. So now it is good for everybody. We are talking about the losses. Even the franchises without the IPL would have incurred a revenue loss of around 200 to 250 crore each. So everybody is happy. Official broadcaster is happy. BCCI is happy. Franchises are happy, although their revenue will take a hit because of the IPL is moving out of India and their overhead expenses will increase. I mean, but without the IPL, there would have been zero revenue.
So you've said about how the government approval is perhaps that last stage needed, but why a foreign country and why the UAE of all places?
First of all, there is two things. In 2014, the first of the IPL took place in the UAE because of general elections in India that year. So UAE has previous experience, and in while arranging the IPL in UAE, it gives you an opportunity to hold the tournament in a contained zone. Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai. These are three venues, not very far from each other. And also, the most important thing is UAE has managed to flatten the COVID curve considerably. So from January to July 26, UAE has just 343 deaths. They have managed to flatten the COVID curve. Also in UAE, that 14-day quarantine period is not required. You have to download their official UAE government app, which is a COVID tracker. When you are going to UAE, you have to do a test yet 96 hours before embarking and then another one there. And if you are past fit, you are allowed into the country. And also another very important thing, UAE is one place where international flights are operating. Both Emirates Airlines and Etihad are operating international flights. International flights in a lot of countries are not in operation at the moment. And UAE is very close to India. In the autumn, the weather would be okay. So all combined, UAE is very friendly with regards to BCCI. It's a very friendly board. So everything combined, UAE became the natural choice or natural alternative.
So I am quite interested that you mentioned this foreign flights thing because that's a crucial component for these foreign players to come in, right? Like into India, it may not have been as easy.
Absolutely. First of all, India, I mean, the COVID curve is on a steep rise in India. So there is no question. I mean, as per the WHO list, at the moment, we are number 3 in terms of COVID affected countries. So there is no chance. And even if we see places like South Africa, South African cricketers in the IPL, we don't know whether they will be able to turn up or not because international flights are not operating in South Africa. So these are the issues. So international flight is the main thing about connectivity. And without this, I mean, you cannot travel. So it is one of the very essential things. And UAE flights are operating, which will be very helpful for everybody.
So does that mean then we are expecting to see kind of that full attendance of players where we have the international, the national, everyone involved?
So as I mentioned, in South Africa, international flights are not operating. In September, what will happen if there is a second wave? Then what will happen? I mean, once again, it takes us to the territory of speculation. But as of now, players from Australia, New Zealand, the respective cricket boards have already given their players no objection to play in the IPL. England will also not be a problem, and hopefully West Indies players will come. So as things stand, I think the majority of the players, I mean, Indian players will be going there, of course, and majority of the foreigners will be able to turn up.
So that then raises the question as to how important is this tournament for these foreign cricketers? Is it like that big chunk of earnings for them also during the year that it becomes crucial for them also to turn up?
For the foreign players, IPL is big money. IPL is the only tournament that can make them $1 million cricketer. So see, the highest earner, Pat Cummins, for them turning up for the IPL, even when there was a question mark over whether World T20 will happen or not, what they will choose between World T20 and the IPL. Even some Australian cricketers came on record saying that we want to play in the IPL. So IPL is big money. One more important thing is that you cannot play a World Cup before empty stands. It is a World Cup. IPL at the end of the day, I mean, it is a cash-rich league, but it is a league. So as we have seen, English Premier League was played in a biosecure bubble before empty stands. So you can play a league behind closed doors, but you cannot play a World Cup before empty stands, which is one of the reasons why the Olympics also got postponed.
So, as you said, now players are expected to travel all the way to the UAE. And you also mentioned like this biosecure bubble that is there, say, in England during the test series. So, are we going to see something similar for the IPL?
No, biosecurity is essential. Without biosecurity, you cannot have the tournament at all. But you have to create a biosecure bubble. There would be a biosecure bubble for players. There would be a biosecure bubble for officials. There would be a biosecure bubble for board executives. So there would be in different biosecure bubbles. With regards to the biosecure bubble for the players, I mean, they haven't decided yet. They will have BCCI will have a governing council meeting in a few days. After getting the approval from the Indian government, they will have an IPL governing council meeting wherein they will put out the standard operating procedures for the tournament. But in all likelihood, franchises will have to take care of the biosecurity of their respective players. So franchises will create their own biosecure bubble. With regards to officials and others, that will be taken care of by the BCCI.
So you mentioned how the IPL is perhaps one of those tournaments that can be played behind sort of closed doors and empty stadiums. But how bad is an empty stadium for the franchises?
See, for the franchises in modern day sport, TV and digital streaming, they are the king. Franchises will lose their gate receipts. On an average, every franchise, it varies from franchise to franchise, like Calcutta Knight Riders, they have Eden Gardens as their home venue. And Eden Gardens capacity is in excess of 67,000. Turnout is always very high. For another franchise which doesn't have a large stadium like Eden Gardens, their gate receipts are low compared to Calcutta Knight Riders. But then again, on an average, every franchise stands to lose around 20 crore rupees, 20 crore on an average, because that gate revenue will not come. But again, having the tournament behind closed doors far outweighs the fact that not having the tournament at all. And they will take this as long as they are getting TV revenue, which is the king, as I told you. I mean, TV, it's about the eyeballs on TV. Modern day sports success, commercial success of the modern day sports is determined by the eyeballs on TV and digital streaming. So from that point of view, franchises gate revenue will be hit, but that is very negligible compared to what would have happened if we didn't have the tournament at all.
And as you mentioned, this been the IPL held before abroad. We've had one edition in South Africa. We've had half an edition in UAE. But what are the biggest challenges in holding it abroad?
See, now it is different. I mean, when you are arranging a tournament as big as the IPL in the middle of pandemic, the challenges are manifold. Because, I mean, you have to arrange a foolproof testing program to start with. If one player or one official from a team or anybody, even a support staff from a team tests positive, then the entire team will have to go into a quarantine period for a certain number of days. So that is one issue. So you have to be very precise with the testings, regular testings, COVID swab, creating biosecurity for the players, for the match, everybody involved, for every stakeholder. And also, if they are allowing at least some crowd into the stands, that is even a bigger challenge if they are allowing at least some crowd at the venues. So it is a huge challenge. It is an absolute huge challenge. England Cricket Board has been doing a fantastic job with regards to their ongoing test series against the West Indies. But then again, it's just a bilateral series played between two countries. Herein, we'll have players from every part of the cricketing world, so many cricketers. It's a very steep challenge that the organizers faces, and they will be tested.
Before we get to the next segment, I just wanted your quick attention. One of the big reasons people say that they like this show is because it helps them understand the news better. It provides them with the context they need to see the bigger picture. And there's perhaps no other place that does this better than the Indian Express's explained section. We on Three Things refer to the section regularly, and it helps us make this show. If you're a regular reader of the newspaper, you know how useful the explained section can be, especially when you're looking for in-depth analysis by the right experts. You can log into indianexpress.com/explained and access their coverage 24/7. Explained by the Indian Express, where news that matters is explained by experts who know the subject. Now, back to the show. At the start of the nationwide lockdown, Bihar was comfortably placed with few cases of COVID-19. But as the number of cases started rising rapidly earlier this month, the state imposed a lockdown on the 16th of July till the end of the month to try and curb its spread. However, the number of cases in the state has continued to rise steadily, and Santosh Singh, who reports on the state for the Indian Express, says the situation is steadily worsening. We're now speaking with him about the various issues being faced in Bihar, including a shortage of hospital beds and testing capacity that's lower than many other states.
If you start from July 1st, we had, if I correctly remember, 10,205 cases. And till yesterday, that is 27th, we had 41,111 cases. It clearly means almost it has risen 4 times. And if you see the positivity rate, so which used to be, say, 6%, now it has risen to somewhere between 8 to 12%, which is very high and alarming as well. And as cases have extended to block towns, it clearly means that only villages are left now. But you can't say even all villages are left because quite possible tests are not being done there, and some cases are asymptomatic. So it's getting pretty scary now. It's spreading fast now, and I think Bihar's peak. I'm no expert. Bihar could be extend to maybe September, October.
You just now mentioned how there is a sort of lack of maybe even testing in some villages, and you've reported about how in many districts there are long queues for tests since there's a shortage of testing kits. But why is this shortage of kits there?
I think it's about procurement and more about the bureaucratic delay. With the antigen rapid kits readily available, they should be getting it. If a state like Uttar Pradesh can get 50,000 kits daily and a small state like Telangana can get 35,000 daily, why can't we? We are still stuck up at, say, 14,000. With great effort, we have risen from 10,000 to 14,000 in last 2 days. So, see, Bihar, we are a population of about 12 crore people. So it has to be at least 20, 30,000 daily. Only then you can screen out the population. So why should people queue up? It should not happen.
In terms of hospitalizations and availability of beds, is there any kind of problem being faced presently?
Yes, everywhere. See, we have only 4 COVID hospitals. 2 at Patna, that is AIIMS Patna, and Nalanda Medical College and Hospital, that is a Patna, and 1 at Gaya and 1 at Bhagalpur. So 4 COVID hospitals are under tremendous pressure. AIIMS Patna is because of the VIP thing. So all VIPs are going there. All recommendation candidates are going there. So they just have 1067 beds. They are under pressure. So you have to mid-level hospitals have to be prepared with. I think priority is beds with oxygen cylinders. Level 1 you have taken care of. You have said that all the non-symptomatic patients can stay at home. But how about the level 2 as per ICMR guidelines? You have beds with oxygen so that you have lesser ventilator cases. So you have to take care of that.
Santosh says that private hospitals are also taking in COVID-19 patients in Patna. But he says that the problem is that private hospitals are only doing so in the state capital. This, he says, could force patients from other districts to travel to Patna for treatment.
The problem is that only you have put private hospitals at Patna. But how about the smaller towns? The smaller towns also have to be prepared accordingly. Or you have to think of, you just have Sadar Hospital in every, that is the nodal hospital in every district. So besides Sadar Hospital, you need to have an open hospital in some good infrastructure, just as they are doing in Patna. There is a seminar, big seminar hall, Gyan Bhavan there. They are starting 100-bed hospital there. So you have to look for good infrastructure, good place where you can start a hospital with a modern facility at district level. So long as we don't have good facilities at districts, the rush at Patna would not stop.
You've also reported on how the Patna High Court pointed out that around 5,000 doctor vacancies in rural areas of the state have still not been filled. how has the state sort of reacted to this pandemic in terms of sort of supplementing its own healthcare capacity in rural areas?
It's quite strange that despite the High Court's intervention, I think that was in May itself, I think total 8,700 vacancy of doctors. And they are saying, why you are not appointing doctors in rural area? And I last spoke to Sanjay Kumar over 2.5 months before he was principal secretary there. There were sanction posts of 1,000, especially doctors. Yet they were not appointed because of bureaucratic reasons. Reportedly, they wanted the choice posting, which is not allowed as per rule. What did the High Court say? High Court said you have to give incentive to doctors going to rural areas. Government may have its own regions. They can cite some central rules. They just say if you talk of social justice, it is the vast pressure of the rich. So they said in those harsh words, but all said and done, they have not appointed any doctors so far. So we need doctors, we need nurses, we need technical staffs. So on this front, I'm afraid anything has been done so far.
Santosh says he's been speaking with senior officials in government hospitals like AIIMS in Patna, who say that every second call they're receiving is from an influential person seeking a bed for a patient. The state government has also gone through multiple bureaucrats to dictate its response to the pandemic. We asked Santosh about that.
And how many health secretaries has Bihar seen in this period?
In last 3 months, Pratyay Amrit is the third health principal secretary health. First, it was Sanjay Kumar. Sanjay Kumar, I think, as per our assessment, and even the opposition said they had been doing very well. He had been very transparent. There could be some differences with the health minister, Mangal Pandey. We do not know the exact reason what happened between them. Just when he had been doing well, he was shifted out, for reasons best known to the health minister, why he was shifted out. Opposition attacked it. Opposition said, Tejasvi Yadav said that since he was maintaining transparency, there could be some issue with the appointment of doctors and posting of doctors. That could be the reason. But those reasons never came out in the public domain. So we can't comment on that. But he was shifted and Uday Singh Kumawat was brought in. But that also didn't seem to work. There are also some inside stories going around that there are some issues of medicine. But again, we do not know the exact reason what happened between them. Yesterday, he was shifted and the Pratyay Amrit was brought. He is the man who is said to be the man behind the electricity overall of Bihar. He also played a crucial role in road infrastructure as road secretary and the first term of Nitish Kumar. So he has been brought with a hope that complete overall could be possible, and at least some of the basic issues could be dealt with. Some of the basic issues, as you said, the first increasing the number of beds. When I say beds with oxygen cylinders. Second, the increasing the number of testing at least to 20 to 25,000. Third, it could be appointment of doctors and nurses and technical staffs. And fourth and fifth could be sundry regions to segregating normal patients from the COVID patients. Fifth could be how you can prevent infection going to the villages.
So Bihar's still under the lockdown that ends later this week, but how well has this lockdown gone in the state?
If you talk of infection, it has not helped. I don't think during lockdown, positivity rate is going, it is hovering around 10%, which is very alarming. Okay, you are increasing the number of testing, but 10%, 10%, 12%, 9%. So this is getting very scary. So it's pretty bad as of now.
A serological survey conducted by Mumbai's municipality found that 57% of the respondents who live in slums had been exposed to the SARS-CoV-2 virus and had developed antibodies against it. The survey that was conducted on over 6,900 people also found that only 16% of the respondents in residential societies, that is buildings, had contracted the virus and developed antibodies. We've discussed the importance of a serological survey in detecting the spread of a disease in a previous episode, and the link is provided in the description of today's episode. The survey, that was conducted in 3 areas with varying amount of confirmed COVID-19 cases, found that 40% of all respondents had contracted the infection, and a surprise finding was that more women had been infected than men. The survey also found that despite the high exposure in slums, the number of fatalities had not been high. A doctor who was part of the survey told the Indian Express that this could be due to factors like demography. The findings of the survey also reveal that the spread of the virus is far greater than believed earlier. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show, as always, was edited and mixed by our producer Joshua Thomas. Before we go, here's another reminder to check out Indian Express's Explained page. You can log on to indianexpress.com/explained and find in-depth analysis by the right experts. It has everything you need to know and understand the news better and see the bigger picture. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet to us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.